video. Look, I just made the video after something that had been mulling on 24 hours previous. That just been let me have some Dr. Pepper. Just been mulling on 24-hour previous. Hold on a second. So it wasn't a thesis. It wasn't a book I'd written. It was just shooting the breeze with you guys to get the ball rolling on it. And yeah, I had counted in the fact that certain characters had died. Like Mengele lived until he was an old man in wherever, South America, and other ones like Martin Bormann. So maybe it's a combination of walk-ins and reincarnation, or maybe a combination of the reincarnated ones bringing the walk-ins into the characters they needed in the global stage, like Fauci. But yeah, when you start looking into it more and more, it gets more and more uncanny. I mean, if you look at the way rainbow flags were displayed, you show me any other group that has a month. They don't. It's interesting how you hear people say things like, in America, I hear them saying, well, veterans only get a day and nobody cares about the World War II veterans. But yet, Pride gets a whole month and the cities are covered in these flags. Well, there's your answer. The pride flag is the swastika of the day. The same people are back with a swastika. This time they have, and remember, the swastika was a symbol of the life-giving sun, the sigil of Thor in motion. It was a beautiful thing, and it had been corrupted. What was the rainbow? A beautiful thing of nature's majestic thing, and it's been corrupted. And if you see, now, I'm not putting on gay people or anything like that. I'm talking about the globalists. The globalists use the rainbow flag in the same way the Third Reich and the National Socialists use the swastika. And if you go to any city in the world during Pride Month, like if you go, like you look at Oxford Street in London, or all along the river in Dublin, anywhere, you have the blood banner of the globalists, the rainbow flags, all laid out exactly the same as what the swastikas were laid out on the streets of Munich and Nuremberg and Berlin back in the 1930s and 40s. Exactly the same. Same people. They're back. The same entities. They're back. They're back. They just have a new cover story. And it's a funny thing, though. Something weird happened today. I made this video this morning, and I think I'm being tailed now. There's a guy in a motorcycle jacket has been around all day, and he keeps looking at me. Funny. And he looks like he has a kind of governmenty feel about him. So that's kind of weird. I mean, it's not like me to be paranoid. I'm not like one of these people who say, oh, they're following me or being tailed all this time. I was tailed once in 2012 by MI5 following a talk I did in London at a big talk in London I did in front of hundreds of people where I called Tony Blair a psychopath, which he is. And I was tailed around Cambridge and places like that. But it was clear as day. But this has the same vibe. You do wonder, like, sometimes if you get overhead, they get too close. But anyway, especially as you have all these people who are on the left who have invested so much psychic energy into the belief that they're fighting the Nazis when they're the actual Nazis. That's the irony of it all. But hey, isn't that life, isn't it? Plus, they're also meat puppets where you wouldn't have the cognitive or the conscious development inside themselves to actually extrapolate the meaning of what I'm saying. It's like when I try to explain to people about the concept of Lucifer and Satan. They all have this idea of the devil in their head. They're not educated. They're just not educated enough. It's as simple as that. They're ignorant. I don't mean they're stupid. They're ignorant. It's a different thing. But yeah. So the pride flag is the swastika. That's it. They've got the whole planet now. They don't just have Germany. They don't have the Reich. They have the whole planet now. And then someone mentioned the Azov battalions in Ukraine fighting the Russians. They're Nazis. They're openly Nazis. And here are all these people who think they're fighting fascism, openly supporting a Nazi battalion, who are just brutal savages, SS-type savages, fighting for Zelensky. And they say, but how could the Zelensky's... Get past that. Get past that. It's the archetypes. The archetype at the energy source has returned. That's what it is. And the new minority is the whites. That's it. That's white privilege and all this kind of thing. We're in the same way international Jewry was blamed for Zionism, was blamed for all the problems in the world in the 30s. Now it's the white man, the white man, the white privilege. They've wrecked the world. They've made it horrible. All you have to do, you look at like the average speech to someone like Joe Biden, or to use his real Chinese name, Shou Baizhang. You know, there was actually an episode, I think it was The Outer Limits, I think, The Outer Limits, where they show the Chinese dictator had created, through using plastic surgery, a perfect model of the US president and put him in power. And I was like watching that the other night and thinking, oh, that's exactly the theories around Shou Baizhang. But yeah, I mean, these people, these, it's like, is Ribbentrop, the Third Reich's ambassador, Ribbentrop, is that now Soros? Well, it has to be. There has to be either walk-ins, reincarnation, or both. Possession, but whatever. They're back. They're back with a new way of doing things. But they're using the tried and trusted methods. A friend of mine just showed me a book that they're distributing in our schools. It's sex education for first year secondary school teachers, students. So this would be like 13. They've just gone 13. And it talks about coming in a man's mouth and how you shouldn't come in a man's mouth because it's a safe sex no-no. And how if there isn't a vagina available, if your friend has an anus and he's okay with anal sex, you can do that instead. It's really shocking how far out there it is. And it talks about, it uses words like your cock, and this is in school book. And it talks about using cling film as a condom for rimming somebody, or sticking your tongue up someone's, and an oral to anal condom. And I would be the kind of person to say I don't have a problem with teenagers learning this, but it's the language that is written it reads like a paedophile grooming a kid, like a paedophile, like a dirty, filthy paedophile in his 40s talking to an 11-year-old kid, saying, "Did you ever have a man's willy in your mouth?" And he goes, "What? People don't do that." "Oh yeah. If you put a man, it's yeah. People do that all the time. You don't know about that?" Well, that's what the book is like. It's like the book is written like a pedo grooming kids. In fact, you can be really almost certain that the person who wrote these books for the school curriculum and endorsed them are pedophiles. Now, I don't support Enoch Burke for lots of reasons. One is that he's too far in the other direction. He has no reason. I don't want to be bullied any more by Christianity than I want to be bullied by woke. That's my attitude towards these things. I always want the equilibrium in the middle. But yeah, I mean, that's what we're dealing with. And it seems like, it's funny, I feel kind of, since the whole thing hit me that woke and globalization is the Third Reich returned, I find myself kind of feeling better about it. I don't know why. I think it's the whole classic things of like the rules of engagement. Now you have the intelligence on the enemy, and you know fully what you're dealing with. Now, we all know what happens to these people in history in the past. They are all destroyed, but they caused absolute mayhem. Look at the mess that the Third Reich made of Europe at the end of the war. I mean, I can remember being as a kid in Liverpool, seeing a whole section of the city that were still clear from when the Luftwaffe bombed it. And that was like, early 70s. Mid 70s. And I was like only a little kid, but I can remember like being able to look across from my aunt's house, across the Paddy's Wigwam with the Catholic church there, St. Patrick's, I think it is. And you could see right across that whole area there in the city centre. It's built up now, but that was all gone. It was been bombed by the Nazis. All the houses were all bombed and levelled. And that was all over cities all over England, like Hull and everywhere, in Glasgow and Belfast. And in Scotland and Northern Ireland, they were all bombed to bits. And it was much worse in Europe, much worse. So it's not that long ago. So it seems to be like, it's interesting, it's kind of like an 80-year time frame, because if you look at the period between now and World War II, it's about the same length of time between World War II and the Franco-Prussian War in the 1870s, I think that was. The same players are always involved again. And as these wars progress, the numbers of civilians getting killed far outweighs the numbers of combatants getting killed. And now you have a situation where very few combatants are getting killed, and it's nearly all civilians getting killed. Now, you have this thing like I saw in Canada that's carousel straight out of Logan's Run. And they're basically, it's an ad for these companies that like end your life. And it's like, that's what it's like. And it's like, are you tired of living? Have you considered, this is all this kind of thing. Malazolam Malazolam in the hospitals is exactly the same as the Third Reich's, sterilization and killing program. The thing that unworthy, this thing they had unworthy of life, and they they tried to, didn't get away with it. They started killing disabled people, old people, people with Down syndrome, people that were a burden on the state. They started killing them through lethal injection. Well, Malazolam and the COVID, same thing. It's all there. Now, it's funny. I feel better now that I know all this. Now, it's not like a rationalization, because it's like I said, and my heart felt right when that feeling in your stomach and your heart when you know something's right. That feels right. But now we know the rules of engagement. We know what we're dealing with. We're dealing with the Third Reich. And we're dealing with the Third Reich reborn as the globalist woke. And that's what we're dealing with. And all these people who are going around, the most fanatic wokies and pro-globalists, they're just the kind of people who are just following orders. Just following, or look at the whole 2-3 years since the COVID. They're just following orders. Someone left a great comment about Simon Schwammer had found and thank you all for your comments. Simon Schwammer, the British art historian, had found that some of his books are great, had found in Germany letters of how they identified the Jews, because you didn't mark religion on your census form. So they just said to people, if you live next door to a Jew, tell us. And you had these people who've been living all their lives next door to a Jewish family they had no problem with, never had an issue with them, but they knew and then wrote to the Gestapo saying, the Goldbergs next door are Jews. And then you had to get these people, and it's the exact same thing as, why did you do that? Well, stay home, save lives. Maintain social distancing. There's a power in knowing this, guys. There's a power in spreading this idea. Now, it's not mine. It's a few Orthodox Jewish rabbis had fleshed it out a bit clearer. I think I've actually fleshed it out a bit more, again, a lot more. But I'm not taking credit for this idea, but I want to disseminate this idea. I want this because there was a great healing in me. The unanswered questions of, why do globalists wreck in this world? Why are they doing this? And as soon as I started to realize that it's the Third Reich again, the same entities, demons, whatever, behind that, are back using the same methods with a different packaging, there was a sense of healing inside me. It's like, okay, now I know what I'm really dealing with. And there is a healing there for two reasons. One, you know what the rules of engagement are. You're not fighting a mystery. You're not gaslighted anymore. You're not bewildered. And secondly, you know that these tyrants are doomed and they're going to bring down all with them. Now, who was destroyed along with their victims? Who was destroyed the most with the collapse of the Third Reich? Their supporters. Their supporters, the ones they all look at the German people who supported the Third Reich suffered terribly. And therefore, all the ones who were saying, I do what the government. I got all my latest injections. I do everything the government says. I support government policy. They will be destroyed with them. And maybe we're dealing with some kind of natural cosmic cycle of consciousness or something, that humans need this every so often in order to make us more get our heads together better as a species. Maybe it's a natural trigger, but they're back. My God, it's incredible, isn't it, when you think about it? Now, they're only going to push the Russian thing so far. You know, anyone who's been following my work for years, and I know most of you out there have been from the beginning, so Jesus Christ, to have you follow me over a decade, I just so humble and honoured by that. But to have known from day one that if there's one conspiracy theory that I think is highly plausible, it's Project Bluebeam. And I do have a personal experience in that about 15 years ago I was hiking in the Ox Mountains near where I live, and quite remote mountains they are. And one day out of the blue I came across an area of the mountains that had been flattened and leveled off. A big box was made, like it had to be level on the top of a wild, like Irish mountain, a common land that you wouldn't, it's even difficult for sheep and deer to get to navigate. With no badly made melt path farmers rode up to it. And I was told that the army did it. So I'm looking at this concrete box on the top of a mountain, leveled off area, and they chiseled in to make the mountain perfectly flat. And then I'll go home, and then 3 weeks later, some prophet had said, some made a prophecy that if we stand at Knock Airport and look across the valley at the Ox Mountains, the Virgin Mary will appear. And sure enough, a lot of people stood at the escarpment on the road leading up to Knock Airport. Knock Airport's on top of a mountain, and on top of the mountain that it's on, and looked across this wide, expansive valley. I live in that valley, by the way, across to the Ox Mountains on the other side. They would see and sure enough, they all saw the Virgin Mary coming with a blast of light from the mountains. So some kind of Project Bluebeam thing was beamed from there as a test on a certain like subject group. So that, and I always said that would be the one that's plausible. They prime people. If you look at the UFO deception, it's always about, we will reveal ourselves when humanity has learned to find peace. And now they've changed it to ecology. It used to be the Cold War. The aliens would always tell you about the Cold War. Now the aliens are telling you about the environmental catastrophe. Now you have these things like Ancient Aliens, and now it's like a big road show on the road with all these the MI5 spook and agents still working, it's still on the payroll, unofficially I bet. People that claim all the usual spooks and Freemasons going around telling people about the aliens. And they now have like alien fever. You have the official sources telling you that the U.S. Navy, that from decades of denying it, now telling you, oh yeah, they're unidentified. So you go to like Irish normie boards, and fellas who were laughing like 2 years ago at people mentioning UFOs are now going, oh, it's now been officially recognized by the military. These assholes. So there's one that would be the next. The World Economic Forum it would be the ideal vehicle to stage a Nuremberg rally of the aliens. Because you remember, that's how they did it in Germany. They had these massive rallies that used to be held on a torchlit procession. And the careful thing was carefully arranged to create a kind of a god of Hitler and the Third Reich, with like the use of audio-visual lighting, flaming torches, phenomenal spectacles, based ironically on the Corpus Christi parades. This kind of thing. Massive things. And that's how a lot of people were spellbound. The Olympics was a classic one. The 1936 Berlin Olympiad. That was a classic one. And what's the next one? Well, it's Project Bluebeam. It's a fake alien invasion, and all the NPCs and normies are going, it's just like in the movies. It's just like Ancient Aliens. It's just like Close Encounters. The aliens are here, and then the aliens be saying, we have arrived because it's time for the Earth to be peaceful under a one world government. This kind of thing. They did a test run for that at the 1984 Olympics, by the way. An alien spacecraft appeared, and the alien came out and says, we approve of these games at the closing ceremony. And we want the people of Earth to come together. This kind of thing. Yeah, so the World Economic Forum would be the ideal vehicle to have the fake alien invasion. And the fact that the militaries around the world are saying, it's showing it. So don't think of it as don't think of it so much as Project Bluebeam, but think of it as a Nuremberg rallies in the sky. The Nuremberg rally will be the alien manifestation, the final glue, and the aliens will be rainbow flag woked. I'm not kidding you. That's what you get. Your rainbow flag is the perfect motif for your nation that has now won. Just watch it. It's going to come. And all the NPCs and everything believe it. See, this is why it's great healing feeling in us. I love the fact that I'm a conspiracy indulger. You can call me a conspiracy theorist. I'm actually proud of it. but I feel so good about it because it's given, and you guys, you've given us the edge to see through the scamdemic. And it's given us the edge now to see through that woke is now the Third Reich. And then the next one to look at, then you put all the things together. What's the obvious one? Project Bluebeam. Something like that's coming. Something like that is coming. Or a god in the sky or something. I mean, remember they did project the Virgin Mary over Havana that didn't work very well for the CIA from a US submarine to try and get Cubans to turn away from communism. But yeah. There's a the comments have been fantastic in the other video, and keep them going here. But yeah, that's it. They're back. Either reincarnation or walk-ins, or I would say both, a mixture of both. The reincarnated ones created the walk-ins somehow, or energized them to move into Fauci's body or whatever, other people's bodies. But yeah, there we are. There we are. It's all based on, when you think about it, there's not a lot of difference between the whole thing of like look at Extinction Rebellion, and then you have Sam Smith doing this kind of blood banner. I see the blood banner of the Third Reich. The blood banner. It's the blood banner is now the mother baby hydras. It just goes on and on. It's just like when you start thinking about this. Look, I don't want credit for this, but I want all of you to disseminate this. I don't care if you don't even mention my name. Make videos, create websites, call up alternative radio stations, get them to talk about it, bring it to the fore. Get them talking about that the globalization and woke is the return of the Third Reich, and the rainbow flag is the return of the swastika, and the proof is everywhere. And do it in the language that I've mentioned it, and mention the names and the unbelievable parallels and Zyklon B is now the fucking Pfizer is IG Farben, for Christ's sake. The IG Farben was the company that created the Third Reich's machine of it was that. What's the one today? Pfizer. Pfizer is IG Farben. It's all come back. And look at the people who run these companies. Look at the resurgence of Prussian aristocrats. Just get out there and spread this everywhere you can. If you have a blog, if you have a vlog, if you have a favorite alternative station, call them up and ask them to talk about this. Bring it up, mention it on social media. Get this out there because it gives us, we finally have the battle plan. We're no longer, we can be like, we are the modern version of the heroes of Telemark. Instead of sinking the Nazi atomic bomb to the bottom of a Norwegian fjord, we have social media and everything out. Get out there, and we are the real La Resistance. And we will win. We've already won.